Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. Today, we're going to take a look at Endeavour, a very popular Linux distribution that's based on Arch Linux. So, let's get to it. So, I'm at the Distrowatch website, and for some reason, I thought Endeavour was number one. But I was surprised when I came here today and saw that MX Linux is the number one distribution according to Distrowatch, and Endeavour is number two. But Endeavour has been up there for a long time. And as you can see, MX Linux is number one, Endeavour is number two, and then you have Linux Mint, and then you have Manjaro is number four, Fedora, Pop! OS, Ubuntu, Debian, and so on. Now, of course, anyone who's been around the Linux world for any short period of time knows that this list, it's a bunch of bunk. It doesn't really mean anything, because really only this list means is that they're tracking, Distrowatch team is tracking how many people click on information about the particular distribution from their website, from this website. So it's not really tracking how many people actually download and install these distributions, and how many people are living in these distributions long term, rather than just installing it, playing with it for a half an hour, and deciding they don't like it and deleting it. So it's not tracking anything like that. It's only tracking what people are clicking on this particular website out of interest. So having said that, so you have to take this with a large grain of salt. But anyways, I was surprised to see MX Linux number one and Endeavour's number two. So today is the time to talk about it. Now, one of the things that is different between Endeavour and Manjaro, they're both based on Arch Linux, but Manjaro pulls everything from the Arch Linux repo, puts it in its own repo, holds packages back for 2 weeks to make sure they're stable, and then releases them. And Manjaro only releases updates right away if they're security updates that are important to release. Whereas Endeavour is pure Arch, kind of, and Endeavour pulls everything from the Arch Linux repo and downloads it into your system. Also, Endeavour is more lightweight than Manjaro. So like I said in my introduction, Endeavour has a lot of love. A lot of people in YouTube and in the Linux world love Endeavour. They think it's great, and they think it's a better, easy to use Arch distribution than Manjaro. So having said all that, I guess that was sort of my second introduction. Let's go to the Endeavour website. So this is the Endeavour website. And of course, you can just scan down here to read more what it's all about. So down here, they have our Mir partners, and they have here this Mir bird repo from Canada. But actually, when you go to do the download, it doesn't exist. That Mir doesn't exist. So I was kind of disappointed in that. So they don't have a Mir in Canada, even though it's on the website. And I would think that they should fix this part of the website. They should take that out. I don't think that would be that hard to do. And having said that, let's move on. Oh, so they have flavors. They have their main default or official is this one here with the XFCE. And then they also have community. They have Mate, they have Gnome, they have Cinnamon, Budgie, Plasma, these two. And they also have some window managers, i3, BSPWM, OpenBox, Sway, Qtile, and Worm. Worm I've never heard of, so I don't know what that is. It's a window manager, of course, but I've never used it or heard of it. Anyhow, that's how it works. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to, let's just go up here. We're going to click on download, latest release, and download. Going to click that on. And you're going to go down here. And these are the mirrors. Now, with most distributions that have different versions or community versions, there's different ISOs to download. So for instance, if you're downloading Linux Mint, they have 4 versions, right? They have their Cinnamon based on Ubuntu. They have their Mate. They have their XFCE. And they have their Cinnamon, which is based solely on Debian. They have 4. And they have 4 different ISOs to download. And the same thing with Manjaro. Manjaro has 3 official flavors of the distribution. They have GNOME, XFCE, and KDE. And then there's community ones. So Manjaro has Community Cinnamon Edition, Community Mate Edition, and or 5, maybe 5, 6, or 7 community editions. And they're all different ISOs. But with Endeavour, it's different. Endeavour has one ISO. You download it and start your installation, and then you decide whether you want to do their default one, which is XFCE, or one of the community ones. So, like I said, the Canada mirror is not here. So they should probably take it off the other list. But anyways, and they have one United States mirror only, which is kind of odd too. So this is where I downloaded it from. I downloaded the GigNet. So you just click on that, download it into your system. It only takes, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute to download. I think it was 1.9 gigs. It's not a big download. And that's how you download it. So I'm going to close my web browser. I'm going to go to my virtual machines. So this is what it looks like when you log on to the ISO. This is a virtual machine. I created a virtual machine and logged into the ISO. And this is your welcome screen. And it logs on to their default edition, which is XFCE. So I'm just going to close this window. And as you can see, this is what it looks like. You have Firefox. This icon here starts the Calamares installer. And this is your start menu. And of course, this is XFCE. So what you want to do is click on this icon here to do the install. And it should just take a moment to come up. So you have this screen here. And you have 2 options. You can start the installer, or you can install the community editions. So let's click on this button for a second. So what you do is go, and I'm not going to go through a whole installation. This is the basic Calamares installer. It's going to go next. So we're in the community editions, and the first time I went in here, I'm like going, well, let's try Qtile. Open box, it doesn't work. That's because they're up here. You got to go up here and choose the one that you wanted to do. And you could pick one of these community editions. Now, this Qtile, I installed it twice. Now, when you install Qtile this way, this community edition of Qtile, it installs it with their own configuration file, which is made for Qtile. So it's not the standard Qtile configuration file, and it doesn't work. And I went through a whole installation of this community edition of Qtile twice, and it doesn't work. I had to power off my machine to get out of there. Actually, I had to log into the TTY in order to shut down. Now, some people might say, well, it's because you are installing it in the VM. It's meant to be installed on bare metal. And I would say that's not true because I've been doing virtual machines for over a year, and I've installed many applications and many distributions in virtual machines, and I've never had a problem with installing and getting something to run in a virtual machine. And as a matter of fact, if we just go out of here for a sec, let's go down to my VMs. So these are all the virtual machines I have installed. I even have Windows 11 virtual machine, Windows 10 virtual machine, MX Linux, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Manjaro, Debian. I have all these virtual machines and all of them work. So as you can see, if you go here, and I know I can't make this print bigger, so I apologize for it being small. So this is Virt Manager I'm in, and I use this for all my virtual machines. I installed 1, 2, 3, 4. I installed 4 versions of, I installed Endeavour 4 times. Now this 5th Endeavour is the one running right now, just so I can show you how the installation works. But these ones are actually installed. So I installed Endeavour with just the standard XFCE desktop, and it works. I installed the Endeavour Community Cinnamon Edition, and it works. I installed the Endeavour Community Qtile Edition. It doesn't work. And I installed it a second time, thinking maybe I did something wrong, and that doesn't work as well. So this is the one we're in right now. So I'm just going to go back to it. And I'm going to make that full screen. So here we are, we're in it. So I'm highly suggesting to you that you do not install this Community Qtile Edition. Do not install it. It doesn't work. And if you did install it and it works for you, let me know in the comments. Now, well, okay, let me put it this way. If you want Qtile, I would suggest installing the default XFCE edition, and then just go into the terminal and do sudo pacman-s Qtile and install Qtile in the terminal. So for instance, this Endeavour here, this is the standard default XFCE edition. I installed that. I went into the terminal, I installed Qtile, and it works. And it just installed Qtile with the standard base Qtile configuration file. And it worked. And I also installed Awesome Window Manager in this one too, and it worked. Just by going into the terminal and installing it. And also in the Cinnamon edition, I also installed Awesome and Qtile, and it worked. So let's go back here. Let's put that back up. So I'm highly recommending that you don't install this. I didn't try these other community editions. Now let's go back. So we can go back. And let's go back again. Let's go back again. And wonder if it will keep letting me go back. It's not going to let me go back anymore. So what I'm going to do is cancel. You want to cancel the current process? Yes. So then they have another option, and it's start the installer. So I'm going to click that on. So when you start the installer, so we are bypassing this install community editions. We're just clicking on here to start the installer. This menu comes up, and you can choose an offline method, which will just give you a standard, well, I'll give you their configured XFCE desktop. And also you can choose this online one. So the first time I installed this yesterday, I installed it this way with the offline one. And it gave me the XFCE edition. That took about 5 minutes to do the installation. It was quick and easy. It wasn't hard. After it was installed, it had about 258 updates. And I just did the updates in the terminal. And that didn't take more than 5 minutes. It was a very fast installation and very fast updating it. But if you choose the online edition, if you choose this online method, when you finish installing it, there's no updates to do. It'll be all up to date. So let's just click this on. And you're going to choose your keyboard. Next. And now we have all this options. You can choose XFCE, i3, Plasma, GNOME, Cinnamon, Mate, Budgie, and these two here. So, like I said, I did the offline installation with XFCE, and then I had to do updates. And I also went into the other area and did the Qtile Community Edition twice, which doesn't work. And then I did this one, the Cinnamon Edition. And I hit next. And it brings you to this, and I just left everything as standard. I didn't click anything on. So you can see you got a basic packages, gives you Firefox, and the Cinnamon desktop is clicked on. And I didn't change anything here, and I hit next. And I didn't change anything on this page. I clicked on next. Here I clicked on this. I left it at no swap because I don't like a swap drive. I clicked on next. I put my name in, my login name. I gave it a computer name. I put my password in. I clicked next, and it's not going to go because I didn't put the stuff in. So this is a basic Calamares installer, which is available in most Linux distributions. Not all, but most. It's easy to use. It's straightforward. And I'm not going to go through a full installation on this, so I'm going to shut this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this first Endeavour. So this was the first one I installed, and I installed it as an offline edition. And this is the one where I had to do the updates after. But like I said, the installation took 5 minutes and the updates in the terminal took 5 minutes, even though there were over 258 updates. And it's just loading up. And as you can see, I have Awesome Window Manager and Qtile because I went into the terminal and installed them after the fact. Let's just type in my password. Let's go in. So I really haven't made any changes to it, except I changed the resolution so it'd be full screen on my virtual machine. And of course, you don't have to do that if it's bare metal. And what you have here is a standard XFCE with their wallpaper. The wallpaper is nice looking. This is your file manager, your terminal. Now in the terminal, I did change a few things. I made the font larger, and I took the bleed through out, the transparency out. By default, their transparency is turned up really high. And I don't like transparency in anything, let alone in the terminal, so I turned that off, and I made the font larger. But I didn't really make any other changes. This is Firefox. Let's open up Firefox. There's Firefox. Now, one thing I noticed is that it came installed with a firewall, but not uncomplicated firewall. So I'm going to turn on the firewall. It's going to ask for my password. Put my password in, and this is firewallD, and it's available in most Linux distributions, and I've never used it. And I'm not saying it's not good. It probably is a very good firewall. I just don't know anything about it, but it looks complicated to me. I wouldn't know how to change all these settings or how to set it up. And here it is here. It's called firewallD. firewallD. So that's the name of it. Connection to firewallD. And like I said, it's available in most distributions, but I've never used it. Now, most distributions that come shipped with a firewall come with UWF, uncomplicated firewall. And that's the firewall that I always use, whether it comes with the distribution or not, or when I install a bare Arch Linux installation, I always install uncomplicated firewall. And most of the distributions come shipped with G, uncomplicated firewall. And sometimes I use that, but most of the time in my Arch Linux distribution, uncomplicated firewall. Anyways, I'm not really impressed with this choice because this is supposed to be, Endeavour aims to be a quick, easy to use Arch Linux distribution. And here they put a complicated, hard to use firewall. Now, I'm sure a lot of people use it, and maybe I'm going to get some negative comments in the comment section. Feel free to do so. I have no idea how to use this. And this, I would not recommend someone who is new to Linux or someone who is looking for a friendly, easy to use Arch-based distribution. I don't recommend using this, and I don't think this was a good choice. They should have installed G, uncomplicated firewall. Anyways, having said that, let's get out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out, and I'm going to change this to, let's go into Awesome. Put my password in, and this is standard Awesome base. Well, this is Awesome with the standard default configuration. This doesn't have my configuration in there, which I could put in, but I didn't. Let's open up a terminal, and let's just do Htop. So I gave this virtual machine a 40 gig hard drive, 4 processors, and 4 gigs of RAM, no swap. And right now, as you can see, it's running at 248 megabytes, which is really good. It's light. And it's light, number one, because it's Arch-based distribution, and Arch is always lighter than Debian-based or Ubuntu-based. And, of course, this is the Awesome Window Manager. So right now it's running at 239 megabytes of RAM. It didn't come installed with Htop, so let's install Htop. Sudo pacman s htop. Put my password in. And that's done. Now let's type in Htop. Oh, and that's a little bit easier to read. 200, so you can see there's 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, no swap, and it's running at 235 megs. Let's close that. Let's close that. Let's open up Firefox. And there's Firefox. Now we could change the resolution. Could change the resolution to, let's do xrender S 1360 by 768. Whoops. Oh, my numlocks were not on. Let's change that. S 1360 by 768. And let's close it. There. So that's better. Let's open up Firefox. And there's Firefox. Let's close it. And of course, the menu is bare because this doesn't have my configuration file in it. So you would have to add your own applications into this menu or download my configuration file. And if you hit the super key and the P, it brings it up. You can type in Firefox and it's going to open it. So let's quit out of here. Let's just do this. Let's quit. Let's try Qtile. Put my password in. And of course, this is standard Qtile with their base default configuration file. It doesn't have my configuration file, of course. And let's open up a terminal. And it opened up the XFCE terminal. It didn't open up Xterm. It's okay. Let's type in Htop. Oh, wow, look at those colors. So here you can see my 4 processors. You can see my 4 gigs of RAM. It's a lot easier to read than the other one. There's no swap, and it's running at 240 megabytes of RAM. Let's close this. Yes, let's close the window. Let's open up Firefox. Oh, before we do that, let's open up my terminal again. Let's change this to 1360. Oh, 1360 by 768. There we go, that's better. Let's close that. Let's open up Firefox again. Hit enter. And there's Firefox. Let's open up a terminal. Let's do Htop. There, that's better. So now we're running at 255 megabytes of RAM. So that's pretty good. Now let's log out of here. And actually, with this default configuration, you can just hit this. Shut down. Now this won't shut down the whole virtual machine. It won't take you out of Endeavour. It's just going to take you back to the login screen. Let's go back to here. And let's go back to the default XFCE session. And here we are. We're back in the XFCE session. And let's open up a terminal. Let's do Htop. And it's not bad. We're running at 589 megabytes of RAM. That's not bad for a desktop environment. But XFCE is not as heavy as GNOME or KDE or Cinnamon. And anyways, that's not bad. Let's close that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into a terminal and I'm going to shut down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up Endeavour Community Edition. I'm going to start the machine. I'm going to make it full screen. Now this Community Edition was a live installation, so once it was installed, you didn't have to do any updates. It was fully updated, but it didn't work. So I'm going to type in my password. And this is Qtile. This is the community edition version of Qtile. And looks good. They've got, notice they have everything is at the top, the bar, but it doesn't work. Can't open up my terminal. Nothing works. Let's do, oh, finally I got a menu, but it doesn't work. My keystrokes don't work. I don't know what all this stuff is. Nothing works. So I recommend not installing this. If you do want Qtile, install their default XFCE edition and install Qtile in the terminal and log into it like I just showed you. Can't change workspaces. None of my keyboard work. I don't know. I'm wondering if this community edition is for Wayland. I don't know. So the only way to get out of here is to, I'm just going to power off my virtual machine. I'm going to force off. And that's closed. Let's close that. And I'm just going to open up this, I'm going to open up the Cinnamon edition. Now, the Cinnamon edition works. And also the Cinnamon edition is a live installation. So when you're finished your installation, it's up to date. You don't have to do any updates. And it was pretty quick. It only took at the most 5 minutes to do my install. And it's just loading up here. And this one works, by the way. Unlike the Qtile edition. So I'm going to put my password in. I'm going to log into the Cinnamon Community Edition. And here we are. We are in the Cinnamon Community Edition of Endeavour. And I'm just going to click on this. Don't show me this anymore. I don't need to see this welcome screen. And the only thing I changed when I was in here earlier is I fixed the resolution so it works with my virtual machine. And I might have changed something in the terminal. Well, the terminal is the same. I didn't change anything in the terminal. So let's close out of there. We have our Firefox. Let's close it. We have our file manager. You could install, because this is the Cinnamon desktop, you could install the weather app. I'm not going to do that now, but if you don't know how to do it, watch my other Linux Mint videos, or my other Arch installations, or my Arch post installation. I have a couple Cinnamon videos where in quite a few of my videos, I show how to install the weather app in Cinnamon. So you can watch those. I'm not going to do that here, but I always download and install the weather app. And it's a basic Cinnamon. There's nothing fancy about it except it has a nice wallpaper. I do like this wallpaper, and they have some other wallpapers in there you can look at. Let's see what firewall is installed with this. Probably the same one, firewallD. Yes, and they ask for the password, and they have firewallD installed. And let's do an Htop. Do I have Htop installed? Oh, I don't have Htop installed. So let's go into the terminal. I'm just gonna, this is the GNOME terminal, so it's easy to use. Custom font. Okay, so let's do sudo pacman s htop. Put my password in. Let's close this down. Let's see if Htop is in the menu. There it is there, Htop. Let's click it on. And that's not bad. It's running at 667 megs of RAM. So Cinnamon always runs a little bit heavier than XFCE, and that's why it's running at 667 megabytes of RAM. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to uninstall sudo pacman s r firewallD. I'm going to put my password in. And I'm taking out this firewallD because I don't like it. So now, before I install uncomplicated firewall, I just want to see if there's any updates to do. That's by you. Oh, there are. Okay, let's do them. And I don't think there was a kernel update in there. Let me just check here. Let's go up. So when there's a kernel update, of course, I always reboot, and there wasn't. Okay, so that was pretty fast. So now what I'm going to do is Oops, I'm going to sudo pacman, oops, let's do G uncomplicated firewall. And let's close the terminal. Let's open up my menu. Let's do firewall. Put my password in. And here we have it. The easy to use G uncomplicated firewall. Let's toggle that on. And there we have it. Voila. Firewall is set. Easy peasy. Now, another thing I just want to look at before I go is this. I want to type into the mirrors. Let's do cd btc pacman d. Let's do vi. It didn't come installed with Vim. I could install Vim, but I'm not going to bother. But it does have vi in there. So I'm going to do vi mirror list. So this mirror list is not bad. The first mirror is from a university not too far from where I live. And the second mirror, I have a complaint about the way their mirrors work. Now they use a thing called Reflector. Reflector is part of the Arch Linux system, but it's only there if you choose to install it and use it. That is, if you install a pure Arch Linux, that is, if you install pure Arch Linux, Reflector doesn't get installed into your system unless you decide to install it and use it. And Reflector is an automated thing that picks mirrors for you to use. I don't like it. I've never liked it, and I've never used it. I always pick the mirrors myself, and I always choose which mirrors I'd like to use in my pure Arch Linux system. So in Arch Linux, there's probably about 900 mirrors worldwide, and I always pick a few mirrors that are not too far from me. I'm in Canada. Sometimes I use mirrors from the United States. Sometimes I use mirrors from Canada. It just depends. And I always pick mirrors that are up to date and mirrors that are fast. So I like to have control of my mirrors. And another thing about the mirrors, so you see anything with HTTPS in it means it's secure. Anything without the S is not secure. And I never download from a mirror that doesn't have the S in it, because there could be a man in the middle and they could be downloading some malware into your system. So I don't know why these ones without the S come up and why Reflector uses them. So there's another negative thing I don't like about the way Endeavour works, because it's supposed to be easy to use, user-friendly, and it's supposed to be good for the user. So I don't like this. Now, I'm going to shut this down. Now, of course, we could, well, let's just go here. Let's just do sudo pacman s qtile and awesome. Let's install them. Let's make that full screen, and it's done. That was quick. Let's get out of here. Let's log out. Put the password. Oops. Let's log into Awesome. And there we have it. Awesome. Firefox. Htop. Running at 300 megs now. Okay. And let's quit out of there. And Let's see if Qtile works. And Qtile works. Let's type in Firefox. And we're into Firefox. Let's close out of there. Let's open up my terminal. Let's type in Htop. And so it is. Let's quit out of there. Close the terminal. Let's quit out of there. Actually, let's just shut down this way. And I'm going to power off. Shut down. So what I want to do is I just want to go back into the default Endeavour distribution. And I just want to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to close down the video. Put my password in. Now I've clicked on this don't show this message again many times, but it doesn't work. It always pops up when I log into here. So now I'm back in the default Endeavour distribution with the XFCE desktop. And what I want to do is just take a look at the mirrors. So I can do cd etc pacman d. And I'm going to do vi mirrors. Whoops. And do vi mirror list. Endeavour distribution with the XFCE desktop, and look at the mirrors here. And this is why I don't like using Reflector, and I like choosing my own mirrors. The first mirror is from, I don't know, it's pulling mirrors from Germany and United States, but I'm in Canada. And the first mirror is not a secure mirror, so you can see it doesn't have DS. The third mirror is coming from these. The third and fourth mirrors are mirrors from United States, and they're mirrors that I use. So when I'm running a pure Arch installation, Constant is one of the mirrors that I use, but I never use this mirror without the S in it. Never. So anyways, I just wanted to show you that. This mirror down here is from the United States. Let's just do this orange one. This mirror is from the United States. These two mirrors are from Italy. So I'm not a great, like I said, if you can see up here, let's go up here. This is Reflector. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here. So that was my look at Endeavour. And I just have to say that I'm really not impressed. It's something that I would never use, and I don't see the point of it. Now that Arch Linux has an easy-to-use installer, granted, it's not as easy to use or user-friendly as the Calamares is, and you do have to know a little bit about Linux and how it runs when you use the Arch Linux installer. I think Arch Linux, pure Arch Linux, is a lot better than Endeavour. And I don't like the fact that the Endeavour doesn't have a mirror in Canada, although they have it listed on their website. Their Qtile Community Edition is broken. It doesn't work. And if it's meant to work with Wayland, they should tell you so. I don't know why it doesn't work. And their Cinnamon Edition is very basic. You can install that in Arch Linux. And so personally, I think that if you're going to use Arch Linux, you should either use pure Arch Linux, and if you really want a user-friendly distribution based on Arch Linux, I would highly recommend using Manjaro. Also, I don't like their choice of installed firewall. I think firewallD is complicated and too hard to use, and for sure, firewallD is not for new to Linux people, and it's not friendly. And it's not user-friendly. So having said all that, I think I gave Endeavour a fair try. I installed it 4 times, and it doesn't do anything for me. although they do have nice wallpaper. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. I am the Linux Mensch.